AWS CLI Autoprompt is a powerful interactive shell built into the AWS CLI to assist in writing CLI commands. This tool is so awesome. It's going to make your life so much easier, and you don't have to be a super expert at writing CLI commands because it's going to show you a lot of the information in place. This thing can do fuzzy search, command completion, parameter completion, resource completion, shorthand completion, file completion, region completion, profile completion, documentation panel, projected output panel, command history, 2 different modes of activation, and works anywhere the AWS CLI is installed. It's super useful. You should absolutely make use of this as much as you can. When I'm using a local developer environment where I have my terminal on my Mac or Linux machine, I can use it to its full potential. When you're in a cloud developer environment or the cloud shell, those panels that give you useful information don't work well, and it's not the fault of the tool, it's the fault of the browser's environment. So just understand that you might not see me using those output panels and the documentation panels often in video tutorials, but locally, when I can use the tools that I want to use, I can make use of that stuff very effectively. So for the documentation panel, the idea is that if you want to see a command or subcommand documentation and you have that panel open, it's going to show you the information. Okay, so here's a command, there's a subcommand. If you want to bring it up, it's F3. And as you type, it's going to then start showing you that information, contextually change. You can navigate between panels by pressing F2, so you can actually go down into the documentation panel and then start scrolling up and down by using the VI directions. That's Vim key commands, J for down, K for up. So you can basically navigate all the documentation without leaving the console, which is nice. So for configuration, there are multiple ways to enable Autoprompt. You can put a flag so that it'll only execute for that single command. Autoprompt is not turned on by default, so you have to always provide some kind of flag. If you don't want to do that every single time you enter in a AWS command, you can export an environment variable to the your current shell. Just understand that it's only going to be for the current shell. If you open up another tab, it's not going to necessarily work. So you'd have to set that nvar in your bash profile, so it'll persist in all future profiles or runtime environments that are open in your terminal. You can also set this in your configuration file. I always use the environment variable. That's just the way that I do it. There's a couple different modes that you can utilize. There's full mode, so every time you execute an AWS CLI command, it's going to open up. Whereas in partial mode, it's only going to execute Autoprompt if you, let's say, mess up the command or you don't completely fill it in. The reason why I want you to use partial mode is that when we are writing bash scripts, it will still try to open up in full mode. And this is really annoying because you don't want this to happen. So it's going to mess up our coding workflow. So set it to on partial. We have an output panel. This is going to show us the schema for a subcommand. So let's say we're trying to create a table. We want to see what results we get back in terms of JSON. We can see that. If we press F5, it's going to open up that panel so that we can start seeing that information. And I just want you to notice that it's not real data. It's just skeleton data because you'd have to send the command to get the data back. It does work with the query option. So as you are writing out your query, it'll actually even suggest you JP, and then it'll filter out and show you exactly what you'll get back. It's a great way to quickly write query commands. It works with different output types, so you could use it with tables. Again, I would show this in my video tutorials, but I can't because I'm using Cloud Developer Environment, and this window doesn't open very well in Gitpod and things like that. For command history, you can press Control-R. This is a normal thing that you can do in your terminal to go back to previous commands, but when you're in the auto prompt, you can do that, and it'll give you your previous commands. So this will show commands that whether were successful or unsuccessful, so you can run them again. The CLI commands that you do not enter, activate the auto prompt mode, will not show up in the history. So if the auto prompt was not activated, it's not going to be in that history. However, outside of auto prompt, if you do enter commands in that were never entered in auto prompt, you can search for them using Control-R and do a fuzzy search. This is not a functionality of AWS CLI. This is just basic Linux bash terminal commands, command history. But just understand that if you run a command in the auto prompt, it's not going to show outside and vice versa. So that's just one limitation. But that'll make sense as we start to work with the CLI. You'll see what I'm talking about. Sorry. long video. We have command completion. So notice it kind of auto-completes the commands and subcommands. We have parameter completion, and it will even indicate to you which ones are required, and they'll show them first. Okay, so notice here it says required, so you'll know exactly what to fill in, that you have to fill in. We have resource completion. This is a hit or miss, but the idea is that it will actually go to your AWS account and it will suggest names. So here I have DynamoDB describe table, and it's showing me table names. Same thing with VPC IDs. I've not found this to always work as expected, but it's cool when it does work. We have shorthand completion, so it will auto-complete shorthand JSON syntax. So that is really useful when you are trying to provide a structure there. So notice here, we're putting filters and saying name equals, and it's showing you the shorthand that you should write. So that's really nice. For file completion, it will auto-complete file names locally. So you can basically just tab your way through. It has region auto-completion here. So the idea is you can provide the region, and then it will show it here. It may not work until you type in other required parameters. So just understand that here we have make a bucket, and we're providing the bucket, but it's not showing it here. And here's an example that it refuses to show because of the order that it's happening in. We have profile completion, so it will show you possible profiles you can enter in. It has fuzzy searching. So what that means is that you don't have to perfectly type it in. You could type in something like, notice we typed the word East. We didn't start with AP, and it still selected all the Easts here and the East here, so that's really nice. And notice here, I'm typing MCA, and it knows to do ME and then the C, so that is really nice. So there you go. That is Autoprompt. Please use it. It is super awesome, okay?